All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of I Quit My Band. My name is Nate, in the reaction zone, here at last, alone. Thank God. No, I'm just kidding. I'm in the reaction zone, but I'm not going to be doing any reacting tonight. I'm going to be talking about something else that I just thought was funny over the weekend. I was with a friend of mine, and we were both talking about our favorite albums of 2025 so far. And my favorite album of the year so far has got to be Yahweh Nail Guns 45 Pounds that came out at the beginning of the year. Just such a weird album. And I was describing it to my friend who had not heard of the band because not a lot of people have. And I was trying to describe their sound, and I was like, dude, it's like this fusion of like dance and like rock and funk and synthwave. And I just realized like halfway through trying to describe Yahweh Nail Gun sound that I was doing the band just a huge disservice. Just everything that was coming out of my mouth just started to sound like lamer by the second. I was just like, what the fuck am I actually talking about here? My friend was just like, that doesn't sound that cool. And I was like, it sounds way better when you just listen to it. Don't fucking listen to me. Then I started thinking, and I was like, you know, I used to be a musician. I used to have a previous life as a musician where I would ask bands what they sounded like all the time, bands that I would meet. And there were like trigger words. Fusion was a big one. When anyone said the word fusion, it usually was preceded by the word jazz. And you're like, jazz fusion? No thank you. I'm going to pass on that. And I started thinking, what are some of the worst like trigger words or ways to describe your own band? If you want people to listen to you, what are some words or some ways to describe or genres that you can just kind of make up that are going to really put people off? So without further ado, here's a list of 10 that I thought up. I have them in an order. I'm not sure if that order is correct. We can talk about that in the comments if you want. I'm always down to fight. This video might piss some people off, so here we go. Number 10, funk infused. I feel like I've heard a lot of bands gravitate towards the word funk when describing them, especially if it's like a rock band. Funk is a very cool genre of music. Probably one of the coolest, honestly. So cool that they wore glasses in the shapes of stars. They actually had instruments in the shapes of stars. They wore sequins, bedazzled magenta jumpsuits. They had afros. They were cool. You? Probably not that cool. If you say your band is funk infused or funky, it probably means that you sound a little bit like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Just because Flea's a good bass player doesn't mean he's on the level of like the Gap Band or fucking George Clinton. You know, like where's the Clinton? Where's the Gap? If you're not doing that, if you're not bringing that to the table, then you're not funky, dude. Number 9, jazzy. This is kind of the same type of deal as funky. But jazzy, it just makes me feel like you're telling me that I'm not smart enough to listen to your band. Maybe your drummer was a jazz drummer, or your bassist was in a jazz band, or you were in a jazz band, or whatever. If you're a jazz band kid and you're using jazz to describe your new, like, out-in-the-world band, then that's a mistake. No one actually likes jazz. If someone told you they did like jazz, it was probably because they were trying to impress a girl that liked jazz. And that girl that said that she liked jazz, she doesn't actually even like jazz. She's just trying to be interesting. So we're just in this cycle of lying about jazz. So don't use it to describe your band. I wouldn't say it to anybody. Number 8, we sound like Tool. Listen, Tool is not a bad band. I'm not a huge Tool fan, but if you're saying that your band sounds like Tool, it probably means you're just like starting to write riffs via the pentatonic scale. Might sound a little bit dark and ominous, but really they're just like, it's Smoke on the Water plus a little bit more. It's just like the first level Guitar Hero of bands that you can just sort of end up sounding like. Like everyone sounds like Tool in some way or another. It's just like, it's the starting point. You're going to sound like Tool for a bit, and then you're going to actually find what you sound like. Does that make any sense? Number 7, desert rock. I hate this one a lot because it affects me personally because I used to do this. If you don't know, desert rock is not really like a genre of music. It describes a place in which music was created. A lot of people use the term desert rock to describe bands like Caius and Queens of the Stone Age specifically because they made their music in Palm Desert, California. And it was spacious and kind of took up the area of the desert with like bassy guitars. Saying desert rock but not being actually from the desert probably just means that you're in like a stoner rock band, but you're all too afraid to smoke weed. Or do any drugs for that matter. Or it just means that you're in a Queens of the Stone Age tribute band, pretty much. So don't say desert. I feel like if you're from the East Coast, you're a band on the East Coast, you can't say desert rock. You can't describe yourself as desert rock. I've seen a lot of bands move towards calling themselves Appalachian rock, which I don't like at all, but I feel like if you do need like a cool word to latch onto and it's not the desert, then go with Appalachian rock. I feel like Appalachian rock is for the people that realize that they can't really say that they're a desert rock band. You're like, we just got to find a cool fucking word. We don't got any deserts out here. What can we say? You know, it's Appalachian. So just go with that, even though it is pretty cringe. Number 6, vibey. You're boring. Number 5, we're indie rock. You're really boring. Indie rock is another one of those things, kind of like desert rock, where it really doesn't describe the music that's being made very well. Indie means independent. And then somewhere along the way in the 2000s, indie rock started kind of describing bands like Mumford & Sons and the Lumineers. So if you say you're indie rock, to me it just feels like we're kind of boring and we also don't really know how to describe ourselves very well. Number 4, post any genre. I feel like I have to put a little bit of an asterisk at this one because I understand post-punk. Post-punk makes sense to me because it's like it describes like bands like Joy Division and The Cure and like Interpol, and there's like a huge post-punk boom right now going on with a lot of newer bands. But post like grunge and post-rock, I don't really know what this means. Like I feel like you can just cut the post from it and be like, we're a grunge band, or cut post and say we're a rock band and people will understand. Post rock, I'm pretty sure means like bands like Explosions in the Sky, and post grunge, I think it means like Nickelback and Creed. But like, why? Who is the pre? What's the pre? Who is the BC? Who's Jesus in this scenario? Was it Kurt Cobain? Who are we really talking about? Just cut out the post. Cut the post. Cut the shit. Let's get to the point. Number 3, we sound like insert very famous, very legendary band. I feel like you could do this back in the day with Led Zeppelin. You could say, like, my band sounds like Led Zeppelin, and people would, like, applaud you. But now, with the whole Greta Van Fleet epidemic, we have this slew of bands that are just dressing up like Led Zeppelin, singing, playing guitar, playing drums, playing the bass, like the guys from Led Zeppelin, but not being a Led Zeppelin cover band, just kind of giving yourselves your own name and being like, yeah, we're our own band. And it's like, no. I've heard other people do this too with other bands. Like I've heard people say like, oh, we sound like Radiohead. It's like, no, you don't. Never even heard you, but you don't sound like Radiohead. If you say that your sound is most closely associated with like one of the most all-time beloved bands, then I'm just not going to believe you whatsoever. Don't do that. If you say your band sounds like the Kings of Leon, then yeah, I would understand that. They're not that beloved. You know, people like them, but like if you say Kings of Leon, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Maybe it's just those two for this one. If you say you sound like Led Zeppelin or Radiohead, I'm just not believing you. Number 2, sad boy. It's kind of double jeopardy because sad boy probably means that 1, you're boring. And then on the more serious flip side of that coin, it probably means that one of your members is going to get arrested for assault or canceled. I don't make the rules, dude. One of you's a predator. You're going to post a Notes app apology at some point in the near future. Start looking through phones. Start connecting the dots and taking notes because it's going to happen. I don't know what's wrong with you sad boys, but you got to get right with God. And number 1, I think the worst way you can describe your band is saying that we don't really have a genre. If you say you don't have a genre, I'm probably thinking that you're vibey, you're jazz infused, you're funk infused, you're desert rock, you kind of sound like Tool, you're definitely sad boy, and you're probably trying to sound a little bit like Led Zeppelin or Radiohead. You're just an amalgamation of all of these terrible things. And it probably means to a worse degree that you can't write any songs. I'm probably going to come see you. You're probably going to just be jamming. It's just not a good place to start. Just keep it simple. If someone asks you what your band is, just say, we're a rock band. We're a grunge band. We're a funk band. We're an instrumental band. We're a jam band. Just keep it to one word. If you're going beyond like one word, then you've kind of gone down a wrong path. Or if you're like trying to categorize it into like something cool that only like, you know, the inside baseball people will know about, also you've gone down a wrong path. Or you can just forget all of it and quit your band and never have to worry about this again. You can subscribe to the channel. You can comment down below. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok for podcast clips and comedy skits. And then you can subscribe to our Patreon page for $5 a month for bonus content. Let me know in the comments what your band describes themselves as and if that's worked out for you so far. My name is Nate. It's I Quit My Band. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.